Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades, I hope you're doing well. Today, is it Tuesday or Wednesday? I can't keep up with days. Oh, karibuni, 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 karibuni. Anyway, guys, today I want to just give my 2 cents on Gachagua's, um, was it a 2 hour thing, 3 hour thing? His media run, his first media run. After he came back from the US, he sat down with Okwara, Yvonne Okwara. Now I got the name. I usually always call her something else. But anyway, I did not manage to watch the whole thing because it was kind of repetitive, the same old regurgitation of blame Ruto game, okay, which was understandable. I expected this, but it was kind of redundant, okay. But I will point out a few things, okay, about Rigathi Gachagua that I think does not play in his favor. Now, before I get started, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades, if this is your first time, my name is Kenya Revolutionary. This channel, I talk about Kenyan politics and world politics as it relates to Kenya. And if that's the kind of content that you enjoy and you would like to take part on, this is a channel for you. Go ahead and subscribe, share, like, comment, and tell your friends about it. And put that notification bell on, okay? And if you've already done that, if you're already subscribed and you're an ardent follower of this channel, you know the first order of business is to do what? Like the video, all right? So, as you can see the topic here today, and I won't take much of your time today because I have a lot of things to do. So I will try to be as pithy as possible or give my succinct opinion on this. Opinion on what? Opinion on the interview former deputy president of Kenya, Rigathi Gachagua, that had with Yvonne Okwara on Citizen TV last night, okay? So as you can see, the topic is Rigathi Gachagua lacks media training. Yes, Rigathi Gachagua, it was, for the most part, I went to the social media just to see people's reaction, just to see the people's reaction, and you can see that the DCP followers, DCP, for those of you who don't know, is Rigathi Gachagua's political party. For his supporters, they were saying, oh yeah, Gachagua is too slick. He answered all the questions. He would not be trapped by any kind of questions. Gachagua had, every answer to every question. Basically, that's what they were saying. So, Gachagua did well, whatever. They're trying to dress it up like Gachagua did well. And, they're supposed to say that because they do support Gachagua. So they have to make their presidential candidate look good. I understand that part. I'm not bothered by that part. But let's just look at this thing objectively. Of course, for those of people who don't like Gachagua, they were like, Gachagua, it's terrible, nothing. It's just same old, same old. I also understand that part of, those people who see it that way. But here's the thing for me, okay? And I don't care much about Gachagua's political position or aspirations because I've already told you why I think Gachagua is part of this, political class, and it's the same thing. I think what's his name? Francis Gaito actually mentioned something that really kind of wrapped up the whole interview in a few sentences, saying that Gachagua is his aim, or maybe his ambition walking up to that interview, was to prepare the country, okay, his supporters to be exact, prepare them psychologically to anticipate a mass exodus from Ruto's political party, or any party that is associated with Ruto, to form a new alliance, whether it's DCP or whoever is going to be. Then they will run against Ruto. But Ruto has a plan B, because Ruto is said to have been have every record of every politician that he gave that bribe, 10 million bribe or whatever bribe he gave them, okay? However much it was, okay? But if you're to look at this objectively, I try to, just all right, let me just study this Gachagua guy, his position, what he's running for, what he's really, what he's really about. Okay, that's how I try to. I already know what he's about. I already know this, but for shits and giggles, I just wanted to see, all right, if I was a voter up there and I'm thinking about 2027, which I'm not, because I told you Kenya needs a revolution, but for the sake of it, let's just run with it. Let me say, let's just assume I'm a voter somewhere who's want to vote in 2027, and shopping for a candidate who might be the ideal candidate, so to speak, to not only take out Ruto, but to lead us to, the proverbial Zion or whatever place, okay? Now, Gachagua, first of all, the reason why I say Rigathi Gachagua lacks media training is that, number one, Gachagua cannot hold his horses. He cannot contain himself, okay, during the interview. He keeps on interrupting the interviewer, okay, Yvonne. Like he could barely just contain himself. That's number one. When Okwara was really digging into his, pronouncements that he made about the president, allegations, whatever the case is, he kind of was interrupting Yvonne. That's number one, the interruption part of it. Number two, his demeanor, the way he communicates, the nonverbal cues from Gachagua. He seemed rattled, okay? Simple questions. I mean, it was to a point, several times. I watched part one of it, and partly of part two, I couldn't finish it because, like I said, I kind of got the shtick, okay? It was all about blame Ruto, Ruto. And it becomes boring, okay? Again, all right, so number one, Gachagua could not contain himself. Number two, his nonverbal cues, communication, was very poor, okay? The flailing of the hands, his facial expressions, you could tell that he was getting rattled by Yvonne's questions, okay? In fact, his supporters, majority of them were saying, Gachagua is, huyo Kwara kwa nini akona hasira? Like, it's bad when you start questioning the interviewer. Now, in fact, some of them were saying that Yvonne Okwara have been compromised. She's working for Ruto. It's like she took up talking points or questions from the State House. Okay, we get it. It's Githeri media. All right, it's Githeri media. But to me, I think majority of the questions that Yvonne was asking were basic questions that anyone would ask. There was nothing really complicated about those questions. It was a straightforward question, nothing tricky about it. And Gachagua was struggling. Like I say, his nonverbal communication, his body language, he seemed to be somebody who was rattled by those questions, okay? Number three, Gachagua is not, I hate to use this term, but I will use it. Sorry, my eyes are like, whatever. Gachagua is not very smart. Let me just tell you that. This guy is, I'm not saying he's stupid, okay? That's not what I'm saying here, okay? He's not smart. He's not very, he doesn't peep what, when somebody asks you a question, okay? Even as a student, for those of you who are still students who still go to school, if you are reading a question in a paper form, or somebody's asking a question in an interview, or whatever the case scenario is, if somebody asks you a question, you should try, okay? This is what you should try to do. Try to understand the question, okay? And trying to figure out what, in this context, it's an interview, try to understand where this interviewer, what the kind of information, not the response that they want, but what they're getting at, okay? For example, if I start talking to you, that's why I think maybe women are better than this than men. If a man approaches a woman, and start talking to a woman, okay? let's say two strangers are talking and a woman is there, he's giving this man time to talk. The first thing the woman will try to establish, not establish, but figure out is, what does this man want? Is he an anikatia? Ama he's just genuine asking questions, or what? You see what I'm saying? So that is what Gachagua lacks in this interview, this context where he's being interviewed. I'll give you an example why I say he's not very smart, not media trained. Okwara was asking him about the allegation that people are accusing him, not allegation, but the general narrative, which is Gachagua is a tribalist. Okay, that's number one. So they ask him, hey, what do you think about people accusing you of being tribalist? And he say that's a narrative, but that is has been created by Ruto in State House. Then Okwara's, it was so silly. Okwara then played him a video of him talking about, his region, the pronouncements he made about, the people of central Kenya being the central part of the Kenyan economy. Basically, they're playing a pivotal part in the Kenyan economy. You could see that Gachagua was trying to backtrack from what he actually said when he was in Boston. He tried to, to be fair to him, he tried to give the context in which he was speaking, but still, it wasn't. He wasn't doing a good job, okay? Because at first he said, we remember what he said. He said that, the Kenyan economy, and I'm quoting this. This is what I'm saying. This is what he said. Gachagua said, the people of Mount Kenya are businessmen, and the Kenyan economy cannot grow without the businessmen. The Mulima people's business entrepreneurship. Okay, I'm just using other words to say the same thing that he said. So essentially, he said when he was in Boston, he was saying the Kenyan economy cannot grow without the people of Mount Kenya. Okay, because the people of Mount Kenya are great businessmen and they play a huge part in the Kenya's economy. That's basically what he said. So when confronted with that, he tried to walk back from his statement, saying that, this is what I meant. I meant that the people of Mount Kenya are central to the Kenya's economy. And Okwara caught that, and Okwara asked him again, so when you say central, what do you mean? Because central basically means they are the main, they're the main, they're the main people who actually determine how good the Kenya's economy is. And Gachagua started, going about saying, oh, that's not what I meant. What basically I meant was that, the people of Mount Kenya are great entrepreneurs. You can go to every part of the country. You can go to Garissa, you can go to Lamu, you can go to Mombasa, and you'll find them. Basically, he didn't explain himself. He could not walk back from what he actually already said. He had already dug a deep enough hole which he could not come out of, okay? And Okwara caught him on that. Then there was other examples that I can give when you were talking about the shareholding part, okay? Which is still connected to this tribalism talk that they were accusing him of, okay? Because they asked him, Okwara was like, okay, so what did you mean when you talked about, shareholding, saying, because, Gachagua's whole complaint was this, that, when I helped President Ruto come to power, we made certain demands. And part of the demands was that we were going to, I negotiated for like 8 positions in the cabinet, okay? And again, as you know, the Constitution gives 22 slots for the cabinet, cabinet ministry, whatever the case is, all right? Cabinet secretaries, all right? The positions. So here he comes out and say that when we won, okay, we had a agreement with Ruto that, once we win, I negotiated for 8 positions, okay, that people from Mount Kenya should get 8 CS positions, okay? Then Okwara asked again a simple question. He was like, all right, so does that mean that what about the others? I mean, if you are going to negotiate for 8th position for your people from Mount Kenya, where does that leave others? And he said, instead of, at first his response was, oh, first of all, I'm against this discriminatory way of, appointing CSS, number one. But then Quara asked him, but you're negotiating for 8 positions for a CS seats, okay? Isn't that discriminatory? Then he goes on and say, even Raila, you saw Raila, Raila and his folks, he managed to bring his folks to have 4 CS positions, which was so funny. And I mean, the basic thing he was saying when he was caught, when he was basically cornered in his Ninio, he kept on pointing a finger to, it's like a little child when he's caught doing something wrong or saying something wrong, instead of being accountable for what they did or said, he'll point a finger to, oh, you know what, that kid also does it, so I also do it. It was that kind of position that he was taking, which was kind of embarrassing. It was silly. In fact, I think Okwara made us mince meat out of Gachagua. It was almost as if Okwara really, I don't want to use exposed, but he made Gachagua look silly to some extent. Okay, it was bad because this guy, he needs to be trained. He needs somebody to sit him down and tell him, hey, listen, if you're going to face these questions like this is how you should answer. Take responsibility and explain yourself in a manner that, yes, just confirm. And the saddest part of this is when he was caught, he kept on saying, oh, but that's how we conduct our politics in Kenya. Which is fine, which is okay. That's how we conduct our politics in Kenya. But the problem is this. We want to change that. That is what the Wananchi want to change. So it's not that that's the way we conduct our politics, but that is the very system of politicking that we are trying to overhaul. We are trying to conduct our politics differently. It's not about shareholding. Everyone should have a seat at the table. Everyone should have an equal opportunity. We should have an equitable society where it's not about shareholding, regardless of who wins the seat, okay? So, and he gave an example, oh, this is done world over. People make deals that when you win the elections, so-and-so gets this. And there was this question of meritocracy, which, again, Gachagua looks so, this guy was downright terrible, okay? His explanation, because he was contradicting himself. And Okwara was just running circles over him with the questions that he was asked, because he will talk about, oh, I believe in a meritocratic society. I believe in, equitable society. Then Okwara will just play a video of him just contradicting whatever he was saying. And again, like I said, this showed that Gachagua, not only was he not prepared, but he lacks media training, and he lacks that perspicuity, okay? He's not perspicacious. What I mean is, that's a $2 word that means he cannot digest the information he gets and respond immediately, accurately, and clearly from what he understands about the question. He should understood what the gist of the premise of the question is, okay? But he failed to do that, partly because when he was being asked these uncomfortable questions, and Okwara was actually holding his feet on fire, he started getting uncomfortable. He was, interrupting Yvonne. He was his mannerism, he was really, I mean, he couldn't contain himself. The things that I've just said. So, like I say, if I was looking at him as a presidential candidate, I would have been disappointed. Okay, he's not ideal, and he even mentioned something about him being a village boy who wants to be sophisticated as Yvonne and all this stuff. And like I say, Gachagua just needs training. He needs training. This and by the way, I don't want people think that this has something to do with how he talks or whatever the case is. No. This has nothing to do with how he. I can care less about your accent or whatever the case is. That's not the point. The point is how you carry yourself, the nonverbal communication, how you speak. Are you composed? Are you assuring? Are you presidential? That's what I was looking at. Is this guy presidential? You know, what do we mean when you say this person is presidential? Are they communicating to the masses as a president, as a leader who can lead a whole nation or a state, a head of state? Are they well composed? Are they articulate? How they respond to the questions? Okay, do they appear rattled? Are they calm? You know, because if you are all over and you are just and the way even the question about his trip to the U.S. when he was being asked about the Al Shabaab and what else? The RSF, okay, Mehdi and whatever the case is, okay. When he was being asked about that, it started well. He started well. He was explaining, okay, I was there when Ruto met this guy. Then they started talking about gold and business and all this stuff. But then, when Okwara dug deep, he started rattling. I mean, he was rattled. Okay, sorry, not rattling, but he seemed rattled. He was like, oh, you don't know what I did in the US when I was there. You don't know what I did there. Then he was like, I won't prejudice the investigation by revealing a lot of information about the issue, which is a fair point. But at the same time, sometimes it's not what you say, it's the way you say it that matters, okay? He should have, from the get-go, he should have been like, hey, listen, the investigations are going on. All I can say is that I have concrete evidence as given the fact that I was the deputy president of William Ruto. I've been in meetings with this too. So I have valuable information that can help in the investigation about this issue, and leave it at that, and say that I cannot disclose more than that. When the time comes, if the DCI or the Senate, U.S. Senate approaches me and they want some more information on that issue, I will oblige. I will be more than happy to help with the investigation, and leave it at that. That will have avoided the whole rustle-tussle with Yvonne Okwara. Okay. So that's what I was saying. But again, like I said, Rigathi Gachagua lacks media training. Not only that, he's not presidential. He's not composed. He's not, the non-verbal communication was just off. Like he seemed like he was sweating. I mean, I know aliweka solea kwa sura. He was shining, glistening. Okay, Gachagua was glowed up. I thought I was looking at an Instagram model or something. He was glowed up and all that, which was fine. I mean, that was a good thing. But, at some point when he started all these facial contortions and when he was really getting rattled, he was sweating. I mean, you could see like his face was extra shining with sweat, kind of, his paws were, which is fine. But overall, what I can say about this interview about Gachagua, it was, for somebody who's a neutral, who have watched Gachagua before, it was redundant. It was repetitive. The theme was the same. All his answers were like, okay, Ruto is to blame. Like everything about him was about Ruto to blame. I get it. I get it. He's your political competitor, or whatever the case is. You're trying to convince us that you're running against him, or whatever the case is. But we would like to hear something more than, let's blame Ruto. Ruto is in control of everything. Ruto changed. Ruto betrayed us. Ruto is messing up the economy. Ruto, that's what people are looking at. Or offer a counter, okay, for example, if let's take the Shah issue, which is the hot button issue right now, okay? The Shah issue, okay, with Ed and Wale and all these schools all these hospitals that we are told that were sent money or were built, but there's no evidence of that, okay? If he was being asked a question about the Shah, he could have, because remember, Okwara also asked, mentioned the fact that before they fell off with Ruto, he was one of the proponents of this Shah moving from NHIF, okay? So, a question like that, instead of, rambling and mumbling and, waffling about Ruto's corruption and how Ruto wants to, steal every money and whatever, he could have mentioned that, yes, highlight that, but explain your role in leading up to this Shah being passed. Explain how and what made you differ with Ruto on this Shah. Explain what you would like to change about this Shah, okay, to improve the millions of Kenyans' lives. What is your plan? Instead of sitting there and say, look, the corruption has been happening, it's happening, they're stealing, or it was supposed to take 800,000, but they switch it up to like 104 billion Kenyan shillings and all this stuff. You see what I'm saying? He's regurgitating the same things we've been reading about on the standard media, Citizen, whatever the case is, instead of like taking that opportunity to express and explain to the nation what he could have done better. He would have stood there and say, okay, my role as the deputy president while I was still there was this. This is what I thought the Shah was all about. This is what I proposed. This is what I discussed with President Ruto. Then at some point when we didn't see eye to eye, I left office, and this is my plan for healthcare for Kenyans, okay? This is what I intend to do in the future as we run, if I'm privileged to become the president of Kenya, okay, I will do A, B, that thing. We shall make sure that they are prosecuted. Something along those lines, okay? It will have been simple, so that people can see the difference between what you are offering, okay? Okay, given the fact that you are a deputy president, because we are still looking at you as the part of the problem because you are part of that administration that pushed for this Shah. So you have to explain your position and how you walk people through how you came about and your departure from this thought of implementing Shah to now that you want to convince us, tell us, walk us through how you're going to implement this system of healthcare that will work for every Kenyan and not only people of Mount Kenya. Okay, so that's what he missed that opportunity. So it all became F. Ruto's party. Okay, every question was all about blame Ruto, blame Ruto. Ruto became a whatever. He changed. He used to come to my house. He used to drink tea from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. He used to do this. He used to do that. I mean, you get tired of it. Even if as a viewer, at some point you're like, all right, I already know the answer to the next question. It's going to be Ruto did this, Ruto did that, Ruto did this. That's what I'm saying. You have to be more creative than that, Rigathi Gachagua. And I'm not your political advisor. I'm just giving you free and unsolicited advice to you next time you have this 3-hour, 2-hour, whatever they are, sit down with Okwara, or I know the next one will be with Sam Gatuku, whatever his name is. Or that, what's his name? That Somali guy, I forgot his name, Mohammed something, all right? So that's basically what I'm saying, all in all, like I say, I'm trying to keep this to 30 minutes. What I'm trying to say is this. Very soon, I mentioned in my previous videos that, this is what Gachagua will keep on doing. He will make these media rounds and continue with all these outlandish claims about what happened while he was deputy president. The unbelievable things that Ruto did. Okay, he will keep on coming with these new outlandish allegations about Ruto. That's his thing, but he has to be more creative than that. I know he's doing that in order to stay relevant in the political arena. but there's ways to do it. I know he wants to keep on with this. I know next week it's going to be him sitting down with another, radio station or whatever the case is, and then he will mix it up with the political rallies and, talking about all this stuff that he was talking about. If you're going to do that, please, you have to come out and you have to look credible to the public, because very soon what will happen is people are going to start shutting off. People will turn off from this nonsense, okay? Because it's basically nonsense. You're not saying anything new. You're not offering a new solution. You're not saying anything new. You're basically saying things that we've already read about, okay? The 104 sharp thing, the MPs being given 10 billion or whatever the case is. We already know that, okay? So that's what I'm saying. You have to be, you have to start rolling out your plan, so to speak. Okay, it's okay to mention what the things that Ruto did, but you also have to tell us what are you going to do if you are privileged enough to become the head of state in Kenya. That's how you go about it, okay? But very soon, I know if you keep on, I know he wants to keep the momentum of his comeback. He wants to keep on talking about what's wrong with this country. Whatever. Ruto is self-destructing. Okay, that's number one. That's the advantage of it. But you being stuck talking about everything Ruto, you have to start talking. And another thing, just as I wrap up, when he was talking about the biggest problem in Kenya is corruption. No, it's not corruption. Okay, the biggest problem in Kenya is not corruption. The biggest problem in Kenya is lack of respect for the rule of law. Nobody respects the law. When I talk about the law, I talk about the constitution, because at that level, the politicians, these representatives that we voted for, do not respect the constitution. The president does not respect the constitution. The judges are making interpretation of the law, which are out, not in line with the constitution. So they've failed in essence, okay? But because no one is following the rule of law, okay, they know they can get away with it. They know they will not be held accountable because they cannot be held accountable by what the law says. They will not face the consequences of their illegal actions, knowing that the Constitution has been trashed and the laws thereof that are made stemming from this Constitution are not enforced. So they do these illegal activities like bribing, whatever you imagine, stealing money, looting public funds, doing all this stuff, knowing that they shall not face the consequences because the judges do not respect the rule of law. They're not going to rule according to the law. The politicians, the DCI, everybody, okay? So the system breaks down because no one wants to follow the rule of law. No one respects the Constitution. And now, in order to try to persuade the public when their names are brought about for the illegal activities that have been involved in, they use their tribe, okay, to persuade the public opinion. To be specific, the people, their community, their tribesmen and women, okay? So in the public eye, when their names have been brought about as being part of an illegal activity, the first thing they do is they use their tribe, okay, to say that they're being targeted, okay? And that's how tribalism plays a part. But in essence, the main problem is lack of the enforcement of the rule of law. No one follows, implements, respects the Constitution and the laws therein that are legislated, that are supposed to be in tandem with the Constitution. You understand what I'm saying? That's why these MPs can do whatever they want. That's why Ruto can usurp power from every arm of government and every governmental independent institution, okay? That's why he's running amok and doing whatever he wants. He's ruling like a king. So he can bribe the whole legislative body. He can bribe all the judges. He can bribe everything. Precisely because no one respects the rule of law. So the system is crumbling because the very thing that actually makes a society is how we govern ourselves. And how do we govern ourselves? We govern ourselves by sticking to that very document, that social agreement, contract that we had, that we agreed on, which is the 2010 Constitution and the laws therein. Okay? But if we fail to do that, you end up with a criminal enterprise, which we refer to as the state of Kenya, the Republic of Kenya. It's no longer a republic, because a republic in its classic definition, it's a society ruled by the what? Rule of law. But now we don't have a republic. We have a criminal enterprise led by William Samoei Ruto, Raila Odinga, Uhuru Kenyatta, the Moi family, Wamalwa, Wamunyoro, Martha Karua, and others. That's why we are where we are. So we need a total overhaul of the system in order to reset the button and go back to a society that is ruled by the rule of law, the Constitution, so we can have a republic again. You understand? So all these minions all these idiots that are talking about 2007 and all this whatever, you are wasting a bunch of time. We are not going to have a difference. I mean, this is how clownish this criminal enterprise we call Kenya has become. Boniface Mwangi launched his presidential bid today. I mean, are we serious at this point? Are we serious? No, we're not. And that's precisely what I mean. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on what I saw on my observations about the interview between Yvonne Okwara with Rigathi Gachagua. All in all, I would say Rigathi Gachagua lacks media training. He does not look presidential. And he's not by himself. I mean, what can I say? I've always mentioned this guy is part of the plan. He's part of the criminal elite of Kenya, the oligarchs, okay? But anyway, guys, just make sure you subscribe, share, like, comment, and do all the good stuff. I'll see you in the next video. I might make a part 2 of this once I finish watching his part 2, but I'm not looking forward to it because, again, every question they were asking him, he could not give a proper answer. His answer was, I mean, he gave an answer, but it all came back, Ruto is this. I'm tired of that. I want to hear him taking accountability for his role as the deputy president at the time. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, share, subscribe, do all the good stuff. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace and blessings. I'm out.